and it's a winning, never to lose. When we talk about vacation, though, it's always a cruise. It's Tony and Tommy with a TNT schmooze. Cruise Talk Weekly, and we lighten the fuse.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's Cruise Talk Weekly. Once again, I'm Tommy.
And I'm Tony, and we're here to break down everything that's going on in cruising. Tommy, what's going on, my man?
How you doing, Tony? Good to see you. I know you've a couple of cruises, not quite back to back, but you're sailing the seas fairly often lately, no?
I feel like I'm Popeye the Sailor Man, you know? I mean, I came home, I think, on a Monday, and then I left on a Friday, and I went and traded at them. I don't know. But what I'm very excited about, I just got back from Miami this morning, and boy, are my arms tired, and I don't go again for a while. So I'm excited to be at home and be in the cut. And but I've had some really great cruising experiences. I had a day in Grand Turk, which I felt like it was a little Tommy-esque. You would have been proud of me out there trying to hit the streets and explore the places I've never been. But yeah, a lot of it was a crazy week too. So I mean, I went on this cruise on the Carnival Celebration. We can certainly talk about that, but I think before we talk about that, we got to talk. Carnival's coming off the rails a little bit. We had a couple announcements this week that I thought maybe they thought people would be okay with. I don't even think one was an announcement, but people seem to continue to be on the chip about everything that Carnival is doing. Have you seen this thing with the drink timer?
Yeah. I did see that. And yes, I did want to take a little bit of an exception with one of the things you said in your video, kind of like 15 drink maxing out the package shaming a little bit. You were a little surprised that someone could actually do that. I think you had mentioned a little bit, but yeah, guilty is charged over here. I wouldn't say nobody's drill. Well, I shouldn't say nobody, but I'm not doing every night, but at least 2 times on every cruise. If I have the package, I'm going to dance with that 15 for sure.
Oh, yeah, I was just being inquisitive. I didn't know. So here's the thing, like, not every cruise line has this arbitrary, you have to stop at 15. Like, I know it's like Royal Caribbean's unlimited, but that's what I was trying to figure out, like how many times people actually, take it to the edge and do 15. Quickly in the comments on my show today, people were like, dude, I can drink 15 with no problem. So, I do like to drink every once in a while, but I don't drink frequently at all. I think on this cruise I had two drinks in 7 days, so I definitely don't drink a lot. So I guess the thing that I don't understand, I'm trying to figure, the same thing that we do with all of these Carnival issues, we're trying to figure out why people are upset, and then why is Carnival doing it. And I guess both of those could have a ton of reasons, but the problem, and again, I haven't seen anything. I'm going to be bird dogging John Heald's Facebook page because I'm waiting for somebody to bring that up just to see what the corporate answer is from the Carnival influencer John Heald over there. But apparently the problem at hand is you would have to wait 5 minutes between drinks. And what I didn't even understand when I was talking about it earlier today was that this even is for non-alcoholic drinks. So say you want to go to the bar and you want to get a soda, and then a few minutes later you might want a water to go with your soda, or maybe you want a beer to go with your soda. Previously you would have to wait 5 minutes before you could make that second request. Well, now apparently you have to wait 10 minutes. And I was just trying to figure out, if people are just, if we're dealing solely with alcohol, is that a big deal to have to wait 10 minutes between each alcoholic drink? Now, shots to me could be the only exception, right? Because you're going to shoot a shot, and that's immediate, and then you don't have anything to drink for 10 minutes. So I could see that being a problem. But if it was a mixed drink or something, is 10 minutes too long? Or it was 5 minutes the sweet spot?
Well, look at it. Well, first of all, going back to the other, 15 drinks, it's subjective. You know what I mean? You'll see it in these comments, both. You'll see who on earth would need 15 drinks? Who could possibly drink? But then you're going to see people, that's why I don't cruise Carnival, because they cap you at 15. So you'll see all ends of the spectrum. Now, regarding the 5 to 10 minute rule, it really is semantics, I believe. Yes, I do think it's a little ridiculous if you're going to talk about non-alcoholic drinks. I don't really understand why you'd kind of care at all what the difference is as far as time from one to the other. But yeah, the 5 minute thing to the 10 minute thing, I could tell you as a gentleman who enjoys the drink package and I drink early and often on these cruises, no, absolutely not. The 10 minute to 5 minute thing is I don't know. It's kind of silly. Even if you are doing shots, Tony, I could get my Miller Lite. I can get it in hand. I could wait 5 minutes.
Yeah.
If you're drinking a new Miller Lite every 10 minutes, that might be an issue too. And you're not going to get very far in the day with your drink package if you're doing that. So even if you wanted a shot, you could drink your Miller Lite, order a shot 10 minutes later, and then right around that 20-minute, 30-minute mark, you'll be ready for your other drink. So no, it really isn't. I think the rub here, Tony, is the fact that Carnival and most cruise lines, let's just be honest, and I don't want to pile on, but there's just such a trend of taking things away, such a trend of just, you're getting less, you're paying more. And even something as insignificant as this might be, in this climate, in this season that we're in of taketh, it's magnified.
Yeah. There's definitely a sensitivity to it. Yeah, I was even trying to work that out in my head. Like, a classic thing when it comes to drinking, right, is a shot with a beer chaser, right? Exactly what you're talking about. So I'm like, well, if the shot's going to be warm, maybe I get the shot first and then I get my cold beer 5 minutes later. So as soon as I get the cold beer, I can do the shot and then drink my beer. But, the other thing that's at play here that may have predicated this change is the new Cheers Zero. What's the non-alcoholic thing called? The Zero Cheers package?
Yeah,
missing something in that name. Yeah, interestingly, when I go on Princess and I have the Princess Premier package, there'll be times where I'll be like, "Hey, can I just get a couple bottles of water, or can I get a Coke and a bottle of water?" I'll get like 3 things at one time, and so there could be a scenario. This may not have anything to do with the alcohol drinking at all. This may have to do with that new Zero Proof Cheers package, where they don't want people who now have spent $30 to get unlimited water, soda, Gatorade, Powerade, Red Bull,
mocktails,
mocktails, Topo Pico, or whatever. I think maybe this could be a thing to say, okay, you can come get 1 bottle of water, but I'm not going to give you 3, and you got to wait 10 minutes before you get another one. So maybe, I feel like all of these decisions are predicated on either trying to keep people from stealing drinks by sharing. And I need to ask you that question. I don't know if I've ever asked you that question. And I think it also has to do with profitability. Like, wow, we rolled out the Zero Proof, and now we got people getting 4 bottles of water at the same time. And maybe that's where some of it comes in. Let me ask you that question. Giving away some of your 15 drinks to other people when it clearly says you're not supposed to share, is that stealing? Is that stealing?
Yeah, I mean, it's like speeding on the expressway, as far as I'm concerned. It's like doing a 672 and a 65 is where I'm coming with that. But you just did touch on it. The sharing aspect of it is probably, and not that anybody's going to say this out loud. They're not going to complain to John Heald. John Heald, now I can't share my drink package. Now we can't split it. But that probably, whether it's being discussed at the surface or not, probably some of the underlying reasons why it's drawing the ire of many people.
Right. It's going to be harder to accomplish whatever they were trying to accomplish.
Because Tony, think about it. With Royal Caribbean, I've never done this, and I would tell you if I did. I really generally haven't done it, but I've discussed it. When you cruise with 4 people, let's just say you're in a friend group, 2 friends, 1 room, 2 friends, the other room. You could make the argument that, okay, 1 room's going to get the drink package. You know what I mean? Because we're going to be a foursome the whole way, even if it's a couples thing, guy and a girl. 1 room gets the drink package, a little bit of a hack. They call them in the, one group, and they split the cost. We do the whole Venmo Cash App thing, and then you basically bought a couple of drink packages, because it really is the Wild West for lines like Royal Caribbean and Norwegian. Haven't done it, have discussed it, thought about doing it, but it's there for you to do.
The thing for me, and this is where I live on it, if they're going to limit you to 15, I wish they would just let you buy 15 and give it away the way you wanted, right? I feel like for unlimited, you got to say, hey, no sharing, right? No sharing because it's unlimited.
Definitely.
But I think for these ones where they say 15, I think, again, but then it's hard, because if it's unlimited on non-alcoholic, you could give away half the ship a bottle of water. It's a mess. It's a huge profit center, obviously. I mean, the markup on liquor, and how much, when you're selling a cocktail for $15, if you got $1 worth of ingredients in it, I mean, you got labor and all that stuff. Let's say even if you got $5 in it, which I think would be a high number, you're still making 200 for 300% profit. So this is big for the bottom line. You multiply that times, millions of people buying the drink package every year. And so there's part of it where they're protecting their bottom line profitability, and sharing is something that definitely erodes that. So I feel like sharing, and we could even talk about pizza, right? I think both you and I ascribe to the theory that they make pizza slowly on Carnival so they don't have to give away a lot of pizza. I know that's a heavy conspiracy theory, but I even saw it on this cruise on the Celebration. There would be times where you got all this ability to make a lot of pizza, and you go on Royal, there's always pizza. Like, they always have pizza. Like, if you wait, it's usually at some peak period and the wait's not very long. You can almost guarantee every time you go to Carnival, you're waiting on pizza. And so is it a matter of not being able to figure out how to make enough pizza, or is it the desire to not make enough pizza? Because if you can feed pizza all the time, you're going to lose money. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I think it is tied to your overall idea of we're in the season of taking, as we should put it on a t-shirt. It's the season of taking, where it's, well, I don't want to go too far, but it's almost like a bad relationship where they're seeing how much they can abuse you, and you'll still, come back and cook dinner the next day or something like that. It's like, oh, you came at me again with another thing, you've hurt me. And it's like, but I love, okay, I'm still here. It almost feels like that, but
that's why I say, even on my show, I'm like, sometimes I'm like, I don't even want to discuss him, because there is a new thing, and it's not because I'm like, I want to be high and mighty and let's only talk about the positive. After a while, it does get boring. You know what I mean? We've all decided we love cruising, and we're going to take it. We're going to take this stuff. And yes, it still is probably the best value as far as vacation goes, especially if it's your favorite kind of vacation. But
absolutely.
I wanted to ask you that because, the Carnival XL class of ships in that pizza situation, it's very interesting how they do it. They do what I call serving windows and cooking windows, right? Yeah. So that they're serving, you're getting pizza, no wait, pizza, and then, okay, that's it for the pizza. And then it's a standoff. Yeah. Whoever gets served, now you're waiting for the cooking window, and that's where no pizza is being served. And then they address the line once the pizza's cooked off again. It really has to be some sort of a money-saving strategy.
Yeah. So last night was the first night I had pizza out. It was that was day 7 of the cruise. And so I was cruising with the fellow YouTuber out there, Don Terrace from Don's Family Vacation. I know you know Don.
Shout out, Don.
I think a lot of people do. And this is the first time he's cruised Carnival in over a decade. So all of this was a new experience to him. And I was like, oh, well, you at least got to go try the pizza. And he made a very interesting observation. So we're there. And what's cool on the XL classes of cruise ships is they are kind of themed toward a location. So the Mardi Gras has a New Orleans theme. Celebration is all about Miami. Jubilee is all about Texas. And so in the deli and in the pizza area, they will have specialty pizzas that are also attuned to the theme. So on the included pizza menu board, there were 5 different kind of pizzas. We got in line during the famine season, right? So there was nobody in line. So we go stand in line, and then it became evident there was like one guy there by himself with no pizzas on the board to give away and no pizzas in the oven, and there were no pizzas being prepped. And so then he's there with the dough balls and the cornstarch, and he starts, and then finally, like, some supervisor pizza guy looks over and realizes he's got to actually jump in. He jumps in, and so they go through the whole, they get all the pizzas in the oven, and you're still standing there. The only pizzas that come out of this, there's 5 menu selections. The only pizzas that come out of the oven or that are made are the cheese pizza and the pepperoni pizza. And so that's what Don was saying. Like, what if you were the 12th person back there and you wanted one of those cool Miami pizzas, or if you just wanted the mushroom pizza that's on the menu, you would have to go through the whole pizza handout given till you get to the front of the line, then ask for a pizza, then they would have to make it custom, then you would have to wait for them to cook it. It's like, why even have the menu there if you're only going to throw out, pepperoni and cheese? And and they look at you like they don't even talk to you. This is the weird thing that's going on with some of this stuff. You know, back in the day, at least the pizza guy would acknowledge you. Pizza pirate on the back of one of these old fantasy class ships. Hey, how's it going? You know, oh yeah, could I get that prosciutto pizza? That kind of thing. No, these guys are head down, right? Like these guys are like, oh man, I got to make this pizza. Then they just chop it up and then they lay it out there and they hope you take it and go away. So like, I don't even know if you want one of those, you know, and one of those fancy pizzas. And then the other thing that they're doing in almost every section of Carnival is they also have a for pay option. So they have a sign up for 2 even more specialty pizzas for like $8 that you could wait in line forever, I guess, to order and then somehow get the magic pizza. But it's a weird situation. And I do think they're all related in the fact that it's all about the money, right? It's all about the Benjamins, baby. I'm assuming that any of these drink policies, and I think you make a fair point. All right, we get tired of talking about all the things that are changing, but they keep hitting us with new stuff. Like last week when we were talking, hey, Tommy, let's spitball what's some crazy stuff that could change. I don't think either one of us would have said, I think they're going to extend the timer for the amount of time you can order a drink. That never would have crossed my mind. Yeah. So yeah, but they're thinking about it. That's the interesting thing. I wonder if they got like Chat GPT pulled up over there and they're like, give me 100 suggestions on all of these operations. Yeah. And what's one weird thing that we could change that people will maybe accept? I don't know.
Certainly what it seems like they're doing. I wanted to, I guess, just getting into the celebration. Now, when I got on so it's like the cruise lines, the cruise ships, Carnival in particular, I think they do it like our restaurant company did it. When we would open a new restaurant, we would have a traveling team that would always be at the newest restaurant. And I think they do that as well. So my first experience on the celebration, I had a phenomenal time. It was probably like maybe one of the 4th or 5th sailings that the ship took. It was during Christmas. It was awesome. I loved it. And I declared it my favorite ship. I went back probably like 9 months later. Now, at that point, the Jubilee had already launched. And I would imagine, well, I don't imagine, I know that team went over, and I'm not saying every single employee, but for the most part, a good core group of employees, crew members, go to the newest ship. They went, and this crew that was there, and I'm not knocking them, I'm not saying anything bad about the crew. We all know we both have so much respect for the crew in general. My feeling on that celebration, and I want to know your feel, because that theme where you get with the pizza pirate, the Miami slice, and what you see there, you're also seeing Guy's Burger. But I think it extrapolates out to most of the venues on the ship. It's a beautiful, dare I say, perfect piece of hardware in many ways, shapes, and forms. But I just think there's so much going on and so many new bells and whistles on that ship that the crew is a little stressed out. The crew is a little kind of spread a little thin. And I think for all the amenities and the things that were available on Celebration, you looked around, the crew was overworked, and there weren't that many smiles from the guests, because you saw around every corner there was a line, whether it was comedy, whether it was guys, whether it was shacks, it was a line to everything. I don't know. Did you have any of that experience on there?
I don't know what the ship was sailing at capacity wise, but I feel like if that was an issue, they've solved a lot of the problems. So
okay, good.
This will be my 3rd time on Celebration, and I've experienced what you're talking about, where it's just a ton of people and they don't have the process down good. I ate at Big Chicken, and I'm one of those people that I kind of. I don't like to be in lines, so I'll do things at odd times so that I can avoid the lines. But, the only place that I got choked up a little bit was at Blue Iguana for breakfast. Whatever that process was, they could have used one more person. Like, that was the slowest. I've been on, let's say, the fantasy class ship, or I was on the Freedom a couple months ago, kind of that traditional place where the Blue Iguana was. And what they normally do is they run 2 guys on burritos, 1 guy on Huevo Ranchero's side. That's 2 different sides. The 2 guys working burritos is the great system, but now you get 1 guy making burritos. It was very slow. And then the pizza, it did take a while. Once the pizza was out of the oven and sliced up, the whole line disappeared. But we stood in line for, the funny thing is we rolled up and there was a large line for the deli. There's about 3 people working in the deli. The deli's amazing. I love it. But we looked at that line and there was basically nobody in line for the pizza. And it's like, well, it's a no-brainer. Let's go for the pizza. I'm assuming that we waited in the pizza line longer than we waited in the deli line, because we had to wait through the whole pizza making process. So the line at Blue Iguana, but we went to Guys with no line. We went to Shaq's Big Chicken with no line. So that's that's what I was telling our friend Don. After a decade away from Carnival, I think the XL class is the way to see it, because I do believe it's Carnival's best offering right now. From ship design, the amount of entertainment that they're putting on there every night. You're getting 2 shows, because they essentially have 2 theaters with the center stage and then the main theater. They have a dedicated comedy club. We had maybe 6 different comedians throughout the week, which is a massive piano bar with a piano player. Just amenity on top of amenity. I waited Emerald's twice with no line. I think Emerald's has got to be my favorite specialty dining. Ada Chibang, Ada Cucina, and so
they have working propulsion. Let's give them that too.
Well, yeah. Hey, look, we stayed on schedule. We did all of the things. It was I do recommend that, and I'm not saying. Yeah, the interesting thing, so this is my 23rd Carnival cruise, and I've never seen anybody get into a fight. There was definitely a diverse group of people on this cruise, and everybody had a good time. So again, we talk about the outlier events. Carnival gets a bad rap because sometimes they have more of these outlier events than other people, other places, other cruise lines. But man, it was excellent. It was a nice 7-day cruise. That the longer cruise could be a part of it. Not a ton of kids on board, but it was fantastic. It was really a great week. I loved it.
You touched on two venues. The deli, I always think, is very, very classically underrated on Carnival, because you just get a good, diverse amount of sandwiches. You get your wings there. Really, really good. And just New York in me or whatever, I'm always a sucker for a good deli, especially at sea. But truly, honestly, one of the best values. I know it's not free, but that Emerald's option is obscene. You're talking chef-driven, high-level chef-driven food, and that is the best deal at sea. That beans and rice with the little andouille sausage in there, phenomenal. $3, you're out of your mind. Come on.
I made a little video highlighting that $3 rice and beans, and I think most people were down with it. But there was a good amount of people that raised an interesting issue that why would you pay for rice and beans when there's plenty of included food? It's an interesting thing. Like I've went back and forth on that my whole life, not specifically my whole cruise life, not specifically the rice and beans, but it is a weird thing how we're somewhat happy to pay for food when there's included food. But look, I love rice and beans, and it's not on anywhere else on the ship, and you can't beat it for $3.
With that argument, you'd basically say, okay, why not go get Checkers when I can get out of there for under $10? But then if I actually have a meal or at a nice steakhouse or something like that, I got to pay $30. Why would you ever go to Checkers? Why would you ever go to the fancy steakhouse if you can get out of Checkers for under $10? So, everything's relative, but you're talking about a high-level, chef-driven, concepted-out meal for, peanuts.
I went back yesterday for lunch. I had the mufaletto, which was good. I like those sandwiches with the olive tapenade, and then we did the beignets again. This now the nice thing is they're taking that beignet recipe to other cruise ships. So when I was on the Freedom, they had a little beignet and donut stand set up in the buffet, and so essentially you could get those Emerald recipe beignets on other cruise ships. I think that's a big win. Here's an interesting miss that I was shocked about. So we were with this travel agent group that my friend Don was doing this travel agent thing, and I kind of got adopted. I was the only U.S. guy out of about 30 Canadians or something. It's something to do with Canadian travel agents. And so the leader of that group, who works for Carnival, she took us to all the things, right? We did all the specialty restaurants, but we also got to do the Thing 1, Thing 2 birthday breakfast where Dr. Seuss was on the loose. And Don ordered green eggs and ham so he can make content about getting green eggs. They're not dyeing the eggs green anymore. How are you selling green eggs and ham and not making the eggs green? Like the dish came out and it just looked like a muffin with a scrambled egg and some ham on it. And I say, hey man, aren't those eggs normally? I have a picture of very green eggs on that plate from earlier in the year on the Paradise, and they're like, oh yeah, we don't do that anymore.
You got to use your imagination for the green.
That's the biggest controversy out of everything on Carnival this week. The look on our friend Don's face when his eggs weren't green, he was rightly not satisfied. But so far, again, we were the guest of Carnival essentially for these activities. But both Don and I looked at the host and were like, "These eggs are not green," and she's like, "Yeah, the eggs are normally green." And then when the server was like, "Yeah, we don't do that anymore," all of us were looking at each other like, "Oh, okay."
Remember that piece of cooking equipment, that appliance that had the 30-minute infomercial that they shoved down your throat about set it and forget it? Remember that?
Yeah. Wrong.
Couldn't get away from that thing.
Yeah.
My friend got one. She had it in her kitchen. I walked into the kitchen. I was probably grabbing a beer or something. I saw the piece of equipment sitting there, and I saw in big giant letters it says, "Do not take set it and forget it," literally. I almost had a meltdown. I'm like, this is your whole campaign. Your whole campaign is around green eggs and ham. This is what we're here for. And you're telling me they're saying, yeah, just stop doing that. That's right up there with them just alternating bacon days, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. So at the Dr. Seuss breakfast, I went. They have a kind of an adult menu too. So I had like a grilled chicken sandwich or salad, grilled chicken Caesar salad, and some bacon. So bacon was there at Dr. Seuss, and I did walk by the buffet. I guess the day I walked by the buffet, it was bacon day too. I do like it when they have the signs up that say that there's like a vacation. The bacon. Could you believe there's a whole marketing push around the bacon's on vacation?
It's out of control. I mean,
it's one of my favorite cruise lines. I love the vibe of the people. I loved all the entertainment. I can't get away from my love for Carnival, but sometimes they make some decisions that make me scratch my head. And I tell you what, talk about some people that dug the deepest hole and they're now looking for a handhold or a ladder or somebody's shoulder to stand on or a forklift or some way to get out of this hole. They keep trying, right? With this loyalty program. So I can't remember when it was announced that, hey, we're scrapping the whole loyalty. And look, we love you guys as customers. Carnival's got the best customers. We're the fun ships. And so we're going to tell you what we're going to do. Everybody that built up all that loyalty over the last 20 years, however long the loyalty diamonds, platinums, golds, all that, you know what we're going to do? We're just going to wipe all that out. We're just going to say, thanks for being loyal, and you can start over. How do you feel about that? And well, everybody lost their minds. Everybody lost their minds. Some of the vitriol I've read online, I've seen people fighting with each other over this thing. Like Carnival loyal still going, but we still love Carnival. And people are like, we're crazy. I got called a traitor today in my comments. I got called. So you and Don are traitors because you should be taking a stand against Carnival, and you should be telling your audience because of this loyalty thing to never cruise Carnival again. And to me, that's a pretty extreme position. So they go from completely taking the loyalty away, and they say the cool thing like, we're going to reward people that have money. So if you don't have money, suck on it. Basically that's what they said in a roundabout way, which didn't really go over well. I don't know why. And then later they came back and they go, look, maybe we were too harsh, right? Now we can't even see the top of the hole. Maybe we're a little too harsh. What we're going to do is that we're going to give you until June the 1st, 2026. And if you can get to diamond status, you'll be diamond forever. Diamond forever. And if you can get the platinum, we're going to give you 10,000 reward points every 2 years. So hopefully you can be platinum forever. And if you can't get to those two things, we don't want to know you. We don't want to know you. And so everybody went, well, that sucks. I'm not even close. I can't do that. And so they've been saying that for the last 2 months. This still sucks or whatever. So this week they come out and they go, look, we hear you. We hear what you're saying. We want to give you the summer to possibly get to those levels. So we're going to start the new program in September. And surprisingly, nobody thinks that's a good idea either. What do you think? What's going on over there, Tommy? Because I can't figure it out. Explain it to me.
Well, no, I don't think anybody can. What I will say, and I'd like to start out because I do have thoughts about this, but I'd like to ask you first. What do you think as far as like these, you would think that these loyalty programs had to be changed because of the massive amount that they were giving away for being part of this loyalty program. When they say we can't possibly handle all of this loyalty, all the people that are kind of, climbing the loyalty ladder. So we have to make changes. We have to make changes. That's the only reason for these changes. Where do you think they're getting tripped up most as far as being able to accommodate people? Because clearly the answer would be, at the very minimum, whatever your loyalty is today, you have that for life. Now, you want to change that for new guests. Fine. Okay, going forward. And like you say, these are new guests, so they may not know any better. You know, they're going to deal with what they get. They're going to deal with the hand that they're dealt. But where do you think they're getting most tripped up by having to start to limit these loyalty benefits? Is it the embarkation? Is too many people embark? Are they running out of bottles of crappy water? Like, what's going on?
So I'm a platinum on Carnival, and I got notified that there would be no priority embarkation or there was priority disembarkation, but there was no priority embarkation because of the number of platinums, right? So that's an issue, right, for my celebration. Okay. Yeah, so that's an issue. And, you know, I did pick up my platinum gift, which was, I like the pen. I like the ship pen. I think that's a really nice gift. You know, you can collect those. Then they also gave me a water bottle, which I gave away to somebody that was in that Canadian travel group. But I don't know how much that's costing them. Here's the thing. This is what I think is happening. They're very profit focused and they're very money focused. And I do think there is some value in saying, if you spend money with our company on a regular basis, on a going forward basis, that's the customer we want. That's the person. If somebody gained platinum or gold or diamond status 10 years ago, and then they barely spend any money with us, do we value that customer? Now, you know, from a philosophical perspective, you should say, yes, you should value that customer because they did what you wanted them to do and they became very loyal to you.
But Tony, to counter that argument, they're also not necessarily clogging up the gangway if they're not on the ship either, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm just saying, maybe they're getting on board and their onboard spend's not that good. Right, because maybe they're getting $4 water for free. The interesting thing to me is I think at some point this whole program is going to be reset. So I think what you have is you have two things going on here. I think everybody's sitting here with the same mindset of going, okay, I know what the perks are for diamond and platinum right now. And I don't think that's what the program's going to be when this thing goes live. I don't think that's going to be that at all. And, you know, this is a conversation I had. Hopefully, when the reward system is based on the amount of money that you spend, hopefully the rewards that you get will be commensurate with spending money. Because right now, they're trying to reward out of a budget that doesn't make any money, right? I mean, I guess you could say because people are booking. But, you know, I saw so many blue cards on this first-time cruisers. I think they just have an influx of new cruisers, and they're like, why are we shelling out dead money to, you know, that we're not making any return on? At least with a rewards program that's based on the amount of money spent, they can take some of the money spent and do the rewards, and hopefully the rewards are better. I don't know. I'm just throwing crap against the wall. I mean, I don't know how they get out of it, but what I said maybe yesterday or something, I wish they would just do it. Just pull the Band-Aid off. Like, here's the new program. This is what's going on. I feel like, but the data has to be fleshing out for them that people are trying these status match from MSC. Yeah, I've seen a ton of people online, and whether, you know, what you say online is what you're doing in life, I've seen a ton of people say, I canceled Carnival Cruises, now I'm booking a Royal. I canceled this, now I'm... So if all of that's true, if all the hyperbole and all of the stuff is actually happening, then you know there's got to be some executives behind this initial decision over at Carnival that's clinching up a little bit, like, oh, we thought it was going to be bad, but it turned out to be really bad. I don't know who this benefits, right? So maybe the person that's close to Diamond, it does benefit. You know, the other thing that somebody threw out in the comments was, you know, maybe this is just another way to get people to impulse book to possibly get to a level that may mean nothing, but at least it's going to fill up their summer bookings. So
I think you're right. I think that's definitely a thing. I think they saw that rush of purchases for people trying to run and get to a Diamond before June. And I think, wow, if we can kind of keep that momentum going, I would think that's a pretty good guess. I would also wonder, you know, the way I look at it too is that I believe that it's so convoluted and so there's so many different aspects to it. I don't know. We don't get political here, but I feel like it's about as, you know, easy to grasp as, you know, the way some of our legal systems try to kind of like put conspiracies under the rug or scandals under the rug. There are so many different things and so many aspects to this thing. Like, okay, how many? Okay, well now the platinum thing, right? So you got to get to 10,000. You're going to be given a bunch of points. Okay, I don't necessarily know that I have the energy or the wherewithal to kind of just sit and read through all this and try to figure it out. Then it also matters how long the cruise is that you're going on. In some cases, maybe it's the category. We go on these vacations a lot of times because we're trying to turn our brains off. We don't necessarily want to have a handbook and a manual to understand what's going to get me my free pin and my bottle of water. And that's the ultimate thing that I'm trying to say here is that I've never, ever thought you should decide on what sailing you're going to go on, all the beautiful places that are out there, all the beautiful cruise ships that are available to you. And you're going to kind of make your decision based on these really thin, these paper thin loyalty programs, especially Carnivals. I just don't buy it.
No, I've never thought that the juice was worth the squeeze, right? I mean, I like the idea. You know, I think some people, I don't know if you ever run into the person on the cruise ship that wants to name drop everybody. Like I know the maitre d', I know the captain, I know the guy that's the head chef. I think people gather their identity a little bit about what they are, you know, and, you know, for people with status, I think that means something. And I think that's why this was such a big deal to them, more so than the not great perks. Their identity got challenged. All of a sudden, I thought I was somebody. I was the person with the white card. I was a diamond. I knew this guy's name, that kind of thing. Now, all of a sudden, you're telling me I can't be that? Like, I thought I could be that, you know? And I feel like that's, at the end of the day, I feel like that's one of the things that, you know, people are super upset about. It's I don't know, but again, you know, the thing that's exciting for me is, you know, I've had that Carnival credit card for a while, and essentially you can get some onboard credit. You get a certain amount of points, you get some onboard credit. But I really like the idea that if now that credit card means that every time I go and choose to use that to fill up my car with gas or to buy a sack of White Castles or whatever, all of a sudden I'm working on my status for Carnival. I like that. I like the fact that I can, when I'm spending real money and I'm showing my loyalty by using that card, and not everybody's down with that idea, but I like the idea of being able to get loyalty other than just trying to go on the cruise ships, right? And getting some sort of value out of their partnerships with, you know, stuff that they're doing on land. I think that's the end goal, but I think at the end of the day, they should just say it, right? Like they've hinted at it. That's the only thing, because I think this is almost, I think what they do, and we've seen it before. This is definitely some test balloon stuff, right? We've seen announcements walked back completely based on reaction. Like, hey, this is what we're going to do. People freak out. I can't remember. There's a good one, and I can't remember, but it's a couple of years ago. We're going to do this, and everybody went, and then they didn't do it, you know, because people freaked out. You know, I think Pandora's box is open on this one. I think they have to make a change, and I think that change is in the works. But when they actually pull the Band-Aid off and tell us what the new program is, I think, I don't know. I don't know if it'll make anybody feel any better, but if you knew exactly what the deal was going to be, I think that would make me feel better at least.
So can you help me out, Tony? Can you walk me through? So we're both platinum now, right? So yep. Where do we have to be? So we're good. We're not touched at platinum for 2 years or 3 years right now.
I haven't studied it up recently, but yeah, there's some sort of grace period. If we hit, I guess now September, if we get to September 1st and we're still platinum, then I think we're platinum for like 2 more years, and the diamond or diamond for 4 years.
And then to maintain platinum, we have to sail, but we do get a little bit of a cheat code. We get thrown 10,000 points, right? And now I got to do some sort of calculation to realize what that 10,000 points is and what I have to cruise to get to the.
Well, it's unclear whether we're going to have to sail, right? Again, if there might be a thing where we could swipe a credit card on land and gain points.
So then that's another component. So now get a credit card. I'm not getting the on-land credit card. So if I'm not getting the on-land creddet card, that doesn't apply to me.
Sailing, maybe you buy a massage and that helps you toward your platinum, right? It's not just the sailing. Or maybe you buy that drink package and maybe I'll get a freaking rebate for buying the internet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this is an example of
maybe I'll get 100 points for buying the internet, right?
I'm sorry. I mean, I'm not saying I'm like, you know, this is way too much to be able to have to keep track of. And then I know that the other component is how many days you're at sea. And then, it's a lot. It's a lot to really think about versus just the VIFP fun points. This is how many days I've sailed on your cruise ship, and this is the credit that I get. Sign me up for that all day long. This is crazy. Now, next question to you is
about this. I don't mean to interrupt you. Think of this. You spend $1,000 to get on a cruise, and you get 1 day of sailing, right? And that's the way it works. Say that you get 1,000 points for spending $1,000 to get on the cruise, and then say you go and you drop $2,000 in the casino and you get 2,000 more points. Where now, if I go on the cruise and I get a 1 point for the 1 day sailed, it doesn't matter how much money I've spent in the casino. But certainly, am I not a more valuable customer dropping $2,000 in the casino?
Yes.
Than the person who doesn't. So I like
have that as a separate thing. Have that as a separate entity and kind of divide the whole two things, because some people, you know what, far be it from me, shame on me for cruising like it's 1995. I got introduced.
Still gonna be mad, Tommy, right? Like all of a sudden I'm double diamond because I'm a casino player. Then the person that's not a casino, so I don't dabble in sin, so I can't be considered as good as the person who does. I think it's a double-edged sword where they don't have a winning scenario.
I think it's true. Loyalty and rewards, two separate things. The loyalty program is a loyalty program. You're not giving these people that much anyway. You're giving them pins, bottles of water, and then embarkation, advanced embarkation, and priority embarkation, and tenders and all that. I think that's fine. But either way, my question to you now is: do you think that when I agree with you, they're ultimately going to overhaul this whole thing again at some point and change the whole thing? Do you think that somebody is going to be on the chopping block for this? Do you think somebody's going to have to pay the piper for just creating this SHIT storm?
So what we've seen in the cruising industry, we saw a very poor launch of the Sun Princess last year. And the guy that basically invented the medallion technology took it on the chin and got fired, right? Like John Pageant's gone from Princess. We saw more at sea replace free at sea, and more be the key. David Herrera's gone. I think if this thing turns into a big old sour lemon piece of crap, I don't see why somebody. That's the way it works, right? You shoot your shot. I mean, that's how business leaders are, right? You shoot your shot, and if you nail it, man, you're a hero. And if you don't nail it, somebody's mad, and somebody's got to take the fall. So, who knows who's in charge of it either, right? Like everybody's a mouthpiece for it, but whose brainchild is it, right? Ultimately, the top leadership has to sign off on it, but that may not necessarily mean the top leaders take the fall, right? Like, Jim in the copy room might have had the idea of like, hey, maybe we should just do a rewards program, and Jim's out of a job or something. I don't know. It's going to be interesting, but everybody loves to like flashpoint stuff, right? Oh, there's another Cracker Barrel, it's another Target, and so it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. But I'll still probably be cruising on Carnival regardless. But there are people that have drawn a hard line in the sand, saying whatever Carnival is to us is not worth the way they're treating us. And for me, I just never had that emotional relationship with any of these brands. Like it's nice. Certainly when you get a perk, it's nice. But I don't feel the emotion of it so much, I guess.
Last question on this. What did Don think overall? He's a believer. Carnival liked it. He's going back.
Yeah, so I think he liked it more than he's letting on. So I'm waiting for his final verdict. But, basically he said, hey, I'm a 60-year-old guy, and I kind of like the vibe of other older, chiller 60-year-old, 50-year-old people or whatever. Or, maybe age doesn't matter. But I think he likes the chiller vibe of Princess. But he's a huge Princess fan. But, like, hey, Don, do you like the food? Yeah, I love the food. He'll name off 5 different, like, the dude loved Guy's Burger. He's a hamburger guy. And like one day I'm like, hey, so we went there together one day, and then I talked to him the next day when we didn't meet for lunch. I'm like, did you hit that Guy's Burger? Oh yeah, I got 2 Guy's Burgers for lunch. Then we had it when we came back from Grand Turk at Guy's. So there's definitely a list of things that he enjoyed. We had a little, he likes the main production shows, and unfortunately we had some cast members out. So a couple of the main shows he wasn't able to see. And then we had a dinner commitment. We missed Celestial Strings, which I think that is really a great show on those ships. But I think overall he liked it. I think he'll cruise it again, and that's what I told him. I said, I mean, you obviously don't have to become a all the time Carnival cruiser, but so many of us that make content, we just hit the new ships, right? Like when the new ship comes out, the Festivale or the Carnival or whatever, the Tropical Festival. Maybe he'll hit those. I certainly want to hit those. I think he was actually looking to see when the transatlantic for the festival was, so I think he dug it.
Awesome. Good.
Yeah, so I think that it's easy to bag on Carnival a little bit, and that's they always have stuff going on. I guess the other thing that's Carnival related is we finally got the cause of death for this Anna Kepner story, which is as depressing as it gets. But I guess the word came out that she died from asphyxiation after bruising on her neck suggests she was in some sort of chokehold, and so this opens up a whole can of worms. I think we touched on it a little bit. I've said it on my show a couple times. This isn't the funnest stuff to talk about, and some people push back and say it's exploitive to talk about it. But then at the same time, there's people like, hey, I'm taking my kids on cruise ships. I want to know what happened to this person, and does it impact my safety on a cruise ship, that kind of thing. I don't know. Is there anything else to say about this, or you got any other thoughts on it? Oh, I've lost you. Are you muted, Tommy? You might be muted.
Am I? Oh, I thought I just hit it. Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Not really much else to say on it other than the fact that it's a horrible, tragic story. It does sound like there was some questionable judgment. What bothers me a little bit is just the outrage around it, like people mad because they're not getting their information fast enough. And what does the FBI do? The FBI is running an investigation. Like the FBI is not compelled to give you the information at the rate and pace in which you have a thirst for it. They're doing an investigation. It sounds to me like it's progressing. It sounds like they're getting some information. And I think everybody, despite how crime obsessed we are in this society, should let people do their jobs and let the woman rest, and also just kind of it'll be there. You'll get all the information, like I've said, but people making assumptions, and I think that's a lot of reason that's why people do put out information, because they try to quell a lot of the speculation that's going to happen, which is going to happen, and I do understand. But you're seeing some of these usual suspect TV personalities come out there and feign outrage over just the wildest misconceptions about cruising and cruise ships, and it's a little disappointing. But the real lead is that this is a horrible thing that happened. The FBI is doing their job, and it sounds like the person of interest or the suspect is probably days, if not hours away from being caught and brought to justice.
Yeah, and that's all you want. I think that's really the balance that at least I try to walk, and I know you try to walk it too. It's like, on these type of stories, I try to be less of a commentator, definitely less speculative, and more just like, hey, this is what we know at the moment. Take it for what it's worth. But yeah, I've seen some wild speculation. Like people, trying to get in the mindset of people that were in that cabin. I'm like, there's no way you could even think that you would know what's going on in the mindset. So. Yeah, so a sad story. It'll continue to develop, and certainly I think everybody will talk about it as it continues to develop. The other thing that happened that was wild, I was getting a message from somebody that's in our community, Queen Beat. That's her screen name, QB. That's what I call her. She was on the Carnival Radiance, and she was telling me about how during the lifeboat drill that the lifeboat broke off of the ship. And then I started seeing some pictures. Some people sent me some pictures. This is a wild scene. I don't know. I like, you're a ship nerd a little bit too. I'm sure you've watched one or two of these lifeboat drills on port day or something. I love to see them drop those lifeboats in the water and drive them around and figure out how it works. Well, apparently when they were doing that on the Radiance, a cable caught the top of the lifeboat and it broke off. Did you see the pictures of the broken lifeboat?
I saw the pictures, some video. What are you going to say about that? Not the most, if you have a little bit of trepidation or a little bit of apprehension when it comes to cruising, not necessarily the first thing you want to see. But again, we talk about these things that happen, these little mistakes that happen in cruising. And as me and you were sitting here, there's somewhere between 500 and 1,200 cruise ships at sea right now. And if you had a magnifying glass, and whether you were talking about fights, you're talking about issues, problems, malfunctions, propulsion, they're so few and far between that I agree with what you said on your show in that, no, it does not make me feel any less safe in terms of cruising whatsoever.
Well, I think it, as I've thought about it, I think that's a beautiful example of the importance of the drill, right? So, something happened that obviously was outside the norm, and thank goodness it happened on a drill, and maybe they learned something from that drill that in the event of a real emergency, that thing won't occur because it occurred during the drill, but it's a wild scene. I could see why everybody's like, whoa, check that out. The part of the thing broke off. I don't even think we've talked since that guy fell between the ship in Cozumel, right?
You know what, on that ship, on the lifeboat falling, you know what we did learn too? We've heard over and over again. This is a legitimate moment here that we learned something. We hear over and over again that these watercrafts are designed to float even if they're completely upside down. We learned that they sure as heck are.
Yeah, this thing had half a top gone and it's still floating upright. That was the other thing, and I don't think I ever cleared that up either. The requirement from SOLA, whatever that stands for, the people that regulate safety at sea, is that you have to have enough lifeboats and rafts for everybody on board. So I think a common misconception is that there's lifeboat space for every soul on a cruise ship, and it's not true. I think most cruise ships have lifeboat space for every passenger, but I think they have safety rafts that a lot of crew are considered to take. And then I think they have an extra amount of, you can lose some life. What I'm trying to say is I'm fairly certain that you can lose a certain amount of lifeboats and still meet the requirements to have emergency evacuation for everybody that's on the ship. So, immediately people are like, oh no, now what are they going to do? I think you can lose a lifeboat and still have enough evacuation stuff.
Agreed. The inflatables, but also, they probably overdo it with those lifeboats as well. You know what I mean? There's probably more than enough, even not having to go into the inflatables for the crew. They probably have more than enough in the event something like that's going to happen. And we sure know in this day and age that they wouldn't have sailed if it was if it was anything but.
I guess if we're clearing up misconceptions, we also talked about the shifting, Carnival shifting which ships were going to go where. Carnival Spirit was supposed to go to Galveston, but now instead it's going to do sailings out of Tampa, and instead the Carnival Sunshine is going to go to Galveston. And I covered that story, and there were a lot of comments like, oh, I can't believe the poop cruise is going to Galveston. I'd never cruise on that because I'm not. The folks out there, hey, I'm just going to give you a little love from Uncle Tony here. The Carnival Triumph was renamed. That's the poop cruise. It was renamed the Sunrise, and so Sunshine is, I think, getting unfairly maligned with the poop cruise moniker. It's Sunrise is the poop cruise, if you want to continue to think of it that way. But Sunshine, I don't know if you've ever been on that ship, but it's got one of my favorite Serenity decks because it's got the cold pool on it.
Its claim to fame was that it was the first Carnival ship to have all the Carnival 2.0 upgrades attached to it. And a little bit of news, another update and a misconception that a lot of people don't know from the Triumph, which is now the Sunrise. They cleaned the poop. It's gone.
Yeah, it's the poop. I have sailed on that cruise ship. I think it was after the pandemic. It might have been right before the pandemic. But it was poop free. It was poop free. So
me too.
Yep. I don't know if you caught my little trip out to Grand Turk, but I think I made my favorite dad joke. I was in the duty free shop and I said I like my shopping like I like my underpants, duty free. So this is I think that's the way I like my car.
Solid joke too. I don't care who you are, where you're from. That's a solid dad joke right there. That's solid.
That was a good one. Yeah, I think I like I like my cruise ships duty free. Also, have you spent much time in Grand Turk?
Yes.
Do you go exploring Grand Turk, or do you go on just that beach strip?
Yeah, no, I've done a few things in Grand Turk. One of the coolest snorkeling experiences I've had out there, if you ever get in the water and snorkel, they have that shelf where you can jump in the water and, you immediately go from like where you're looking down at 20-foot depth, and then just a couple of feet over, it goes right down to a couple of thousand feet. They call it the shelf.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, really, really cool. I've done the, both the Jack Shack and the Margaritaville, but there's also another bar called the Whale's Mouth or the Whale's Rib or Whale's Tail, something that if you leave the cruise port area and go to the right, it's a great hidden gem. A nice, third option when you're talking about your basic tropical, beach bars and stuff like that.
I spent $81.99 to go on a duck boat, which I didn't even know they had a duck boat. This is a flashpoint too. I had so many people talk about the duck boat that sank in Branson, Missouri, and people lost their lives. I've been on duck boats everywhere, right? This is one of those things where certainly there are incidents where these things, but I didn't realize people would be up in arms a little bit about the duck boat. But this was one of the best things I've ever done. So I've only been on the beach at Grand Turk. I've walked around Margaritaville, that kind of thing. So I booked the $81.99 duck boat. It turns out to be a 3-hour tour, but we go the full distance of Grand Turk, and the guy does not stop talking about the history of Grand Turk. And it was fascinating. There's a big lighthouse 10 miles away from the cruise port. We went out there. But what I didn't know is in the 1600s, somebody had an idea to dig a pond in the middle of Grand Turk, and they realized that they could set up a pump system to let salt water into this pond. Then they could shut the water off. They could let the water evaporate. Then they could sell salt to the world so that people could keep their meat preserved. So the biggest industry from the 1600s, and this industry lasted all the way into the 1970s, was salt production. And the tour guide told us that at some point the U.S. under President Lincoln was buying salt from Grand Turk to keep meat preserved in the United States, and that refrigeration killed that business. But the other thing that's interesting is in the 1600s, they brought donkeys to haul salt to the pier so that they could ship the salt out. And then when the salt business went away, they didn't do anything with the donkeys. And so they don't keep them pinned up. They don't regulate their reproduction. There's just donkeys all over the island, which was bizarre in its own right.
I can vouch for that because the first time I ever went to Grand Turk, and again, I have a little bit of an interesting history with mopeds, that I've talked about on my show. I got a moped in Grand Turk, and, I didn't know much about cruising back then, and I didn't know that, you just get a moped in Grand Turk, and you're basically just driving around proper Grand Turk, and it's very, very interesting. And yeah, donkeys, horses, just wild four-legged animals everywhere. But yeah, it makes sense.
Too. And I guess on that island, they don't pen any of that. There's no natural predators on the island, and they don't pen any of it. I thought it was a really great cruise port. Again, it's one of the most picturesque cruise ports. If you're somebody that likes to get into the water and you like a beach, the fact that there's a beach and you can do that in the shadow of a massive cruise ship, it's like a cruiser's dream, really. Yeah, and like so that beach extends down to places like Jack Shack, and it was really neat. The wildest thing, though, is the pool at Margaritaville was closed. Everybody was seated around the pool, but as we walked, I just went to take a little footage of the pool. Big sign that says pool's closed. I don't know why. There was nobody in the pool. I'm like, I couldn't imagine going for Margaritaville Day and the pool being closed. And then the other thing, I finally saw the replica statue of John Glenn. So John Glenn, I think, the first guy to orbit the Earth or something like that. I guess his little capsule splashed down in Grand Turk. So it was a fascinating place. And, a lot of people don't like a little bus tour, but I do like the duck boat because it's amphibious, right? We went all the way out to the lighthouse. Then we went to a lagoon and boated around. So you just drive right into the water. It's like you're back in World War II or something like that. But kudos to that guy. I mean, I know way more about Grand Turk, and sometimes you forget it's nice to go and learn about a place and respect the fact that place is there for a reason. And of course, now it's all tourism. Yeah, there a lot of people were beefing a little bit about people going to Jamaica so close to after the hurricane, but this is the way these islands make their money. Like, oh, we need to let them recover. Well, they need money to recover, and the way they get money is when we stop by and visit their places that are open. So. I don't know. It was great. Yeah, it was a great week of cruising. I'm glad to be home for a couple weeks, and but I'm also going out mid-December or something like that. So it's the best, man. I love it.
I love Grand Turk too. Tony, what was that ship that had the false alarm man overboard on?
Yeah, so that was. Oh, that was the Radiance. What I'm sorry.
I thought so. That was the Radiance, right?
The Dream had the broken lifeboat. Right.
Okay. The Carnival Dream had the broken lifeboat. That's a correction right there. Carnival Radiance had a false Man, Overboard.
That's the ship that QB was on. She was sending me pictures of that. Other people were sending me pictures of the Dreams Lifeboat. Yeah, so they heard a splash in the water. And I heard crew members and guests heard a splash in the water. This is a West Coast cruise somewhere near Ensenada. And I think it's a daytime splash. They sound the alarm. They call out the Oscar alarm. The ship stops. It reroutes to where they think they saw the splash. They put lifeboats in the water to do a search. And then after a little bit of a search, they're not seeing anything, and they decide to tell everybody to go to their cabin. So they're going to do a head count. And so everybody goes to their cabin. They count all of the passengers, and everybody's there. So the Overboard call turns out to be false. The one question that I got on the end of that story is, why wouldn't they call people to muster? And this is speculation, because I don't know why they would tell you to go to your cabin instead of muster. I feel like maybe it's a comfort thing, right? Like, do you think it's more comfortable for people to sit in their cabin while they're waiting to be head counted? Or, if there's no danger to everybody that's left on the ship, should you muster them,
I would appreciate that certainly a lot more. And then maybe a bunch of people may have speculated, how these telephone game messages and announcements are sometimes heard in completion, sometimes not. A lot of people may have just, wait, what's going on? We got to get in the lifeboats. People may get a little scared if they hear that they got to go to their muster station, because as we're told, that's the only reason that you'd have to. But I would certainly appreciate being able to go to my air-conditioned room for a half hour, 45 minutes because of this. Now, Tony, I got this. This came on my radar from TikTok. And you see a lot of stuff on TikTok. I'm just doom scrolling on TikTok, and I saw someone say, we think someone ended up in the ocean. We're not really sure. And then I saw she focused in on what was a whale or a shark or a large fish that I guess may have been the splash, but that was also in real time creating a bunch of terror, because people thought that this person was just basically at a risk of being eaten by this giant sea animal. But it turns out that it sounds like maybe this was the animal that caused the alarm in the first place with the big splash. Because I was wondering too, we've all been on the promenade deck and just appreciating the horizon and the ocean and the waves and everything. And, it would have to be, I can't imagine hearing somebody fall into the ocean from the promenade deck. It would have to be quite a splash to drown out the sound of what is just that roaring ocean that we're all used to hearing.
Yeah, it's interesting. And you wonder, like, sometimes, it gets contagious, right? Like, did you hear that? Yeah. Did you? I feel like I heard a splash. Did you? Then all of a sudden, oh yeah, I think we all heard a splash, that kind of thing. As you were talking, I was thinking, would you consent to wearing something like a tracker on your arm that would go off or something if you went overboard? I'm just thinking, I'm just brainstorming here. What if everybody on board had some sort of wearable, and when it crossed the plane of the side of the ship or something like that, that it alarmed? Now everybody wouldn't wear it, so now all of a sudden you're trying to track down people that aren't wearing their thing. It might be more hassle, but I wish there was some way they could plaster something on you that, that would again, then you're trying to solution a very big exception, right? The number of people that actually have this issue are so minuscule compared to the millions of people that don't. So do you really want to jump through that expense of, putting a tracker on everybody? But, it would be an interest. I don't know. I
think Palantir's listening right now. They're like, you know what a great idea, Tony.
Yeah. Well, sometimes they give you those bracelets that you can't take off when you go to an event, could you just put an RFID chip in that? And I hate wearing that stuff all week and taking a shower, though, with those little ribbon bracelets or whatever.
Yeah, that's my only thing. Where does it go from there? You know what I mean? That's information. It's who you are. It's where you are. At some point, does the cruise line become in cahoots with somebody else, some other entity that, is going to do whatever they want with that information? It just gets a little weird. But I could say if this continues to keep happening with these, overboard situations or all this other stuff and people getting lost on land, maybe one day it will be a reality.
Yeah. I mean, obviously cruise ships are safe, right? So again, we're talking about all these outlier events, and, is it callous to say, okay, somebody every once in a while, somebody's going to go overboard, and that's just part of our vacation, Have you ever been on a ship where somebody went overboard?
Not at all. I'm trying to think of anything crazy that did happen. No, nothing. I've been pretty fortunate in that situation. A couple of it's crazy because whenever you see the people in the jumpsuits, that's when you kind of perk up and wonder what's going on. I did see at one point on the celebration, they were all running somewhere and they meant business. Wherever they were going, they meant business. And I'm trying to think. No, that's it. That's really the closest. But it was nothing. It turned out to be no problem, and that was it. But no, I've never experienced anything like that.
I've only been on one, the 80s cruise earlier this year. That's the only one.
Yeah,
I've been sitting with medical. Yeah. I've been on a few medical, but again, most of these things, I've never. I'm 70 plus cruises. And I've never seen a fight, I mean, like all these things that make the news, I just haven't seen. So,
Well, our waking hours, me and you, Tony, are probably a little different. So I've definitely seen 4 or 5 decent fights.
Oh, yeah. You've seen some fights. Yeah.
I've cruised less than you. And I've seen them. But yeah, it's just because,
That's right.
you're more likely to find me out after 1:30 a.m.
places. Yeah. I'm doing my, nightly meditations and you're at the club. So
Yes.
that's okay. I like the club too. I did go to the 80s party again, like with this travel agent thing. I got encouraged to go to more places than I normally do. So we were out there doing the 80s party, which was nice. A lot of people in costumes. Carnival, again, I guess the best thing to say is like if in your heart of hearts you don't like a deck party and you don't like loud people and you don't like a party, Carnival's not for you. It annoys me sometimes when people that Carnival's clearly not for wants to take the fact that it's not for them to crap on the people it's for. I feel like this is the thing that annoys me the most when it comes to cruising. If you love Princess, if you love Royal, just go love that. Like you don't have to say, oh, you're not a good person because you cruise on Carnival. It's the tribalism. People feel better when they can have something they dislike. And so, if you feel better because you dislike a Carnival cruiser, it's a weird thing to me, but I guess it probably makes some sort of sense psychologically, maybe, I don't know.
And it shows you how strong their brand is, because if you listen to anybody talk about cruising in the street, whether they're casual cruisers or non-cruisers, won't monitor the sea, why would you have a cruise Carnival? It's crazy, it's a low budget. They are not having any trouble selling their cabins. Yeah. I mean, they're doing pretty well. It's a good time to be Carnival Cruise Line. So despite all the, the rhetoric about how they're a low budget cruise line and, I would never do a Carnival. Somebody's doing Carnival. A whole lot of people are doing a Carnival because their ships are full.
Yeah, absolutely. What are you doing? You say you're jumping on the Liberty? Did you say Liberty?
No, I was looking to see if there was going to be a casino deal because, my little venture here, the Chop Shop down in West Palm Beach, we probably are going to shut down on Wednesday and reopen Monday. So, I got plans for Thanksgiving, but I was seeing if there was something that was going to go on for a Friday. I may even jump on a Margaritaville. We'll see.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah. Speaking of West Palm, that was a story maybe today I talked about. I don't know. All my days are running together. But it was another instance of somebody getting arrested for warrants. And so maybe it's worth briefly saying that if you're out there and you have warrants, one of the things they do in cruising is they take everybody's personal information, your passport information, your birth certificate information. They cross-check it against databases. And if you've got outstanding warrants or you owe child support or any stuff like that, they'll grab you, just so you know. Could you imagine that's the way, like you've been on the lam, right? Like, you did some crime somewhere. There's a warrant out there for you. You've been ducking, you've been shucking, you've been getting away with it. And then all of a sudden you're like, man, I need a 3-day cruise. If I can't, all I want for Christmas is a cruise. My size is cruise, or what do those t-shirts say? And then all of a sudden your warrant catches up with you. That's hardcore.
Where does the luggage go?
Yeah, maybe they impound that or something, I had another weird scenario that I never saw either. Like, so at Carnival, they sniff your bags, right? Have you been through the drug line where you can't touch your bag, you just have to put it in front of you. You can't look at the dog. You can't even you can't think about the dog. The dog just has to sniff your bag.
Yeah.
So I was in a long line and the dog was going to sniff my bag. It ignores the whole line and it goes deep into the queue and it disappears. So imagine that. You're lined up, like 10 people kind of in a row. The dog's supposed to walk in front of those 10 bags, and then you're supposed to go to the security scanner. He skips all the 10 bags and he goes 30 people deep behind us where you can't even see anymore. And then all of a sudden the guy comes out with a baggie that looked like some oregano in it. Now, I don't know what the disposition of the person that had the baggie is. Like, does that person still get to cruise? Should they have been banned immediately? But they came back with the baggie, and then the dog sniffed our bag. So it was, I hadn't seen that before.
How crazy it is at the precipice of what we're on the verge of. We're talking about AI and robotics, and whatever entity that is going to be controlling the world in a matter of hours from now. The fact that we're still using our pets to bust people for drugs is just kind of hysterical and comforting at the same time.
All right, let's go Matrix. So if you could just put on a headset, or if you could stick something into your brain and you could have the full sensation that you're on a cruise and not have to travel anywhere, would you do that?
No.
If it was cheaper than a cruise.
I would not. I wouldn't want that. You know what? Maybe generations from now, or maybe even a generation from now, that's going to be the way to do it. But I'm not wired like that. I want to be where I'm going to be, because if you could just do it at any time, if it's cheap, if you're not really there, whatever it is, I could be wrong in saying this, but I do not want to mimic the experience. I want the experience. What about you?
So, well, I don't know. Like, if you could make my brain think that I had the experience, like if whatever makes me experience what I experience, if you could hack that and make me have that same sensation without leaving my house, I might do that.
What is your body doing? What is your physical being doing when this happens?
I don't know. But
are you like at your kitchen counter, like talking to an imaginary bartender? Is that what's going on? Is it?
Yeah, maybe something like that. But at the end of the day, if I had the same sensory experience of being on a cruise and I had the same memory of being on a cruise without ever having to go, I would probably do it. What about this? What about this? If in the future we have computer robot overlords, are you going to rebel against them Red Dawn style, or are you going to just submit to the overlords?
No, at this point, I'll be the guy in the camp yelling, "Avenge me," probably. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That'll probably be me.
The reason I couldn't rebel is because I would have to have a Swayze type figure to lead me, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoa. Where did we end up, Tony?
What's a better movie, The Matrix or Red Dawn?
I will take the shaming if necessary. I have not seen The Matrix.
Wow. All right. Well, no shame, but it's worth the watch. I think you would like it. But it's all about essentially the premise of the Matrix is that everybody is a meat sack that's plugged into a giant alien or machine, and they're using our body temperature for fuel. But what they do for us in exchange for us just being in a pod using us is they let us live in a virtual reality that's amazing. So the big philosophical question in the Matrix is, would you rather be ignorant and bliss, or would you rather take the pill that's going to let you see the real world around you, which is a horrible oppression by overlords?
That is it's more than I'm prepared to think about. I would probably just go along with the way it's been. I do think I am one of those people who thinks that we don't even know what's out there. We don't know what we are. We're not even, we haven't even scratched the surface, because you just look, right? Think about like maybe a couple hundred years ago, if you said there was little harmful, invisible microbes in the air that could make you cough and get you sick, you were like executed for witchcraft or something like that for believing that. Yeah. So who knows what's out there, and who knows what we're going to learn in the future.
I think what we've learned here today, maybe this Carnival loyalty program is just some glitch in the simulation. The programming has gone wrong. And now I think they're trying to see whether or not people will.
It's a test poll.
Yeah, I think the overlords are testing us. That's what I think it is.
I agree. I think we solved that today. If we've been on the ring else, we figured that
out all day, just with my thoughts, and maybe that's why we're here. That's why we're here at this moment. But look, Tommy, always good to catch up.
Always,
and it was a great conversation. I'm sure there's more that we haven't covered, but we'll do it again. Look, everybody. Of course, hopefully you're listening to this on your favorite podcasting platform, but you also could have the wonderful visual pleasure of seeing it this This is the Cruise Talk Weekly show, and we have our own YouTube channel called Cruise Talk Weekly. We're a fledgling YouTube channel. We're growing. We already have 2 episodes published on that YouTube channel. So if you'd like to see us kind of grin at each other as we have these conversations, go over to Cruise Talk Weekly on YouTube, and we have an email address if you have a question, or if you would like, if you want to if you want us to wax philosophical about anything, just send us an email at questions@cruisetalkweekly.net, and we will pontificate like madmen over here. That's what I think.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna put away my tinfoil hat.
I was just making a new one. Where do we go from here, man? Wrap it up for us, Tommy.
Appreciate you guys watching. Definitely, as Tony mentioned, please subscribe. We're upstarts. What do you think of that, huh? Tony up here being an upstart? That's kind of crazy. But yeah, we could use these subscribes. But if you're gonna subscribe, please watch and engage. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next week.
And it's to winning, never to lose. When we talk about vacation, though, it's always a cruise. It's Tony and Tommy with a TNT schmooze. Cruise Talk Weekly, and we lighten the fuse.